I want you to try something before I say another word. Take a breath. Feel your chest rise. Feel the space between your skin and the air around you. Now, what if I told you that space isn't real? Not isn't real, like a nice metaphor. I mean a 19th century thinker, one of the sharpest minds America ever produced, looked at the line between you and everything else. Other people, the tree outside your window, even God, and called it a lie. A glitch your mind runs on a loop, every waking second, to convince you that you're separate from the world you're standing in. And here's the part that should actually bother you. Once you see the trick, you can't unsee it. It doesn't fade back into comfortable background noise. It just sits there, quietly rearranging everything you thought you knew about who you even are. His name was Ralph Waldo Emerson. What he found, he didn't call a theory. He called it the Oversoul. Stay with me, because by the end of this, the way you see yourself might not survive intact. Emerson was born in 1803 in Boston, into a family so soaked in Puritan tradition that rebellion seemed almost hereditary. He trained to be a Unitarian minister, a respectable path, a safe path. And then his life cracked open. His young wife died. His faith, the tidy inherited kind, died with her. He stood in pulpits reciting rituals that felt, to him, like reading someone else's diary aloud. So he did something almost unthinkable for a man of his position. He walked away from the church entirely. What he built instead wasn't a new religion. It was something stranger. He read German philosophy, English poetry, and, remarkably, for a 19th century American, the sacred texts of Hinduism and Buddhism, just as they were beginning to trickle into the West. And out of that collision of ideas came a single, radical claim. God is not out there. God is not a bearded figure on a distant throne judging you from afar. God is the very substance of your own consciousness. He called it the Oversoul. Here's the sentence that started it all, from his 1841 essay of the same name. Emerson wrote that we live scattered, in fragments, in division, in isolated moments. But underneath all of that fragmentation, he said, something else is quietly present. A single soul that all of us secretly share. Think about what that actually means. Your thoughts feel like yours. Your pain feels unmistakably, unshareably yours. But Emerson is telling you that's the surface of the lake, not the lake itself. Go deep enough beneath any single human mind, and you don't hit bedrock individuality. You hit an ocean, and that ocean has no edges. It doesn't belong to you any more than it belongs to the stranger sitting across from you on the train. So how do you actually reach this ocean? Not through church, not through scripture. Emerson had a one-word answer, and it was almost heretical for his time. Intuition. He believed every person carries a direct line to ultimate truth, no middleman required, not reasoned out, not argued into existence. Felt. That jolt of clarity you get staring at a sunset. The lump in your throat when a stranger's kindness catches you off guard. The moment your gut tells you something is wrong before your brain can explain why. Emerson said, that's not just emotion. That is the Oversoul, speaking through the only mouth it has, you. In a century obsessed with institutions, authority, and inherited dogma, Emerson was essentially telling an entire nation, Stop asking permission to know the truth. You already carry it. And here's where it gets even bigger. Emerson didn't stop at human beings. He looked at a leaf, a stone, a river, and said, "That's the Oversoul too. Nature isn't scenery. It isn't a resource waiting to be logged, mined, or admired from a car window. It's a mirror. When you stand in a forest and feel something shift in your chest," Emerson would say, "you're not just observing trees. You're recognizing yourself in them, seeing the same current running through bark and blood alike." Sound familiar? It should. Centuries earlier, the Vedantic philosophers of India had already arrived at almost the identical insight that the individual self, the Atman, is not separate from the universal ground of reality, Brahman. Emerson, sitting in Concord, Massachusetts, had stumbled into the same truth that mystics on the other side of the planet had been circling for thousands of years. Different language, same ocean. Now here's the part that should genuinely unsettle you. If the Oversoul is real, if you and the person you resent, the stranger you envy, the enemy you can't forgive are all, underneath it all, the same wave rising off the same sea, then separateness itself is the lie. Cruelty, greed, indifference to another person's suffering. Emerson would say, all of it is built on a kind of forgetting, a collective amnesia where we mistake the wave for the whole ocean and start treating other waves like threats. And compassion? Compassion stops being a moral rule you're obligated to follow. It becomes something closer to self-recognition. When you comfort someone in pain, Emerson would argue, you are not performing an act of charity toward a stranger. You are recognizing your own face in someone else's suffering. This is not just old, dusty philosophy gathering dust in an anthology. Listen to how modern this idea actually sounds. Carl Jung, nearly a century later, proposed a collective unconscious, a shared psychic substrate underneath every individual mind. Quantum physicists describe a universe that, at its most fundamental level, behaves less like a collection of separate objects and more like a single entangled web. Ecologists talk about the Earth as one interdependent organism, not a pile of disconnected parts. Even contemporary consciousness researchers, flirting with ideas like integrated information theory, are edging toward a suspicion Emerson voiced 200 years ago. Maybe consciousness isn't something your brain manufactures alone. Maybe it's something your brain simply tunes into. Science keeps rediscovering doors that a heartbroken ex-minister in Massachusetts had already found the key to. So what do you actually do with this? Emerson wasn't interested in giving you a comforting bedtime idea to nod along to and forget by morning. He meant it as a summons. To live from the Oversoul means trusting the quiet voice inside you over the noise of 1,000 external opinions. It means walking into a forest and feeling kinship instead of ownership. It means looking at the person who annoys you, who challenges you, who is nothing like you, and remembering that underneath the disagreement, the same current is running through both of you. It means understanding that your isolation, your loneliness, your sense of being a small, fragile thing adrift in a vast, indifferent universe, that feeling, as real as it is standing on a lie. Because underneath the noise of your one particular life, Emerson insists there is something eternal, something that was never born and will never die. Every soul a wave, every wave the same ocean. And the moment you stop mistaking yourself for a drop of water cut off from the sea, that's the moment, Emerson believed, you finally wake up to who you actually are. Not a stranger passing through the world, an expression of it.